Okay, so please, this is our very first time doing this HUD event, and if we do have one in the future, we want to do our best to make it better. So please give us your feedback about it. We really appreciate that. And the second thing is, you have a flyer on your desk about a property. I've had a lot of people say, is this property available? Trust me, we would not give it out if it wasn't. So this is one of the fix and flip properties that we have. So you can see a typical kind of deal right here. This is a property we're selling for $49,000, 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Kershaw, South Carolina, 1,981 square feet, almost a half an acre, and it's a fix and flip with an ARV of 110 to 120. So you can run the numbers and see if you think that might be something you would be interested in. You could see Randolph, I guess, right, Randolph? Would you be willing to sell this house if somebody was interested in making money on it?
Yes.
Okay. Randolph will take care of that for you. And Randolph is great to work with. We've had some people in here that have bought houses from Randolph, right? You worked with some people in here, right? Yeah. So, yeah. All right, the next thing is we have this little thing called the Coaching Club. The Coaching Club. That is a membership website as well as a CD of the month. And the membership website, it's $49.95 a month, so like $600 a year. Or $297, I believe it is our discounted price if you pay for a year in advance. And it's where we archive like our boot camps, our investor paloozas, anytime we do webinars, teleconferences, there's forms, documents, spreadsheets. There's literally years worth of education and training on this website. It's not a home study course or anything, but it's education that we have prepared over the years, okay? Not an event like this, not a paid event like this. It's not going to be there, okay? But like our boot camps where people who buy our courses and can attend the boot camps for free, the boot camps recordings are there. And so if you are so inclined and would like to take advantage of that, it's $49.95 a month. And I record a CD of the month every single month and send it out to the members of the Coaching Club. And there's also, I think I mentioned forms, documents, spreadsheet. There's a whole list of everything that's there. And last but not least is we are going to be offering the recordings for this event in the future, sometime down the road. But I don't even know when it'll be, because it could take these guys months to put all this together and edit it and all that stuff and take out the, some of the questions or whatever you can't hear and just edit it and pretty it up. So we're going to be offering that, and I can tell you, I don't know what the price is going to be, but it will not be any less than what the attendees paid, okay? And it probably will be more. But you guys as attendees, if you would like the raw, unedited footage of everything that was covered, and I told these guys before we started, anytime there's somebody up here up front speaking, I want the recorders to be on. Okay, so if you guys would like that, you can get it at a discounted price of $297, and we'll put all that together and ship it out to you. Okay, put everything together. If you would like that, this is the absolute only time it will ever be offered at that price. Is only to the people who are here in the room at this event. Okay, so attending this event. So the next thing Candace wanted me to mention was do we have any books left, Candace? She has a few books left. If you want the real estate day trading book or the HUD book, you have that available, as well as a Filthy Riches or Ultimate Buying Machine course. And also, if you don't mind, we really would appreciate it. We'd like your feedback, not only with the surveys, but if you see Sean around or Todd around, or even any one of our guys, I'd love to get your feedback and see. And if you wouldn't mind, recording a little short video for us. We would really, really appreciate that, to give us an idea. Nathan, you okay? See Nathan. See Nathan? Look at Nathan. See him. Nathan's really good at telling people what to say on stuff like that. Right? I'm just being honest, So here's what I want you to say. No, but he's already had a few people do that, so that's really good. We appreciate the feedback. And so without further ado, what I want to do is we've got a lot of stuff to cover this afternoon, and you guys are going to be hearing from the rock star, the automator, the relational technologist, the man, the legend, the myth, live and in person. Come on up, Paul. Woo!
How's everybody doing today? Good. Well, before I jump into this, I guess I will give you guys a little bit of my background, that kind of thing, so you can understand where my mind is and that kind of stuff. I'm from Texas originally, came here for Bible college, got married. My wife's actually from Germany, born and raised on the east side of the Berlin Wall. So whenever I go over there, it's actually really interesting to go over there and learn all the historical history and that kind of thing of Germany. And a lot of what I want to do when I do real estate is I want to be remote with it. I want to be able to automate everything, because I would like to go to Germany a lot, and I'd like to go see my family over there. So a lot of the concepts and things like that you'll see is basically me striving to be able to do everything from my phone and my laptop wherever I go in the world. The other thing is a little bit about my background. I was homeschooled, and one of my school projects was kind of interesting. Back in 1994, our entire neighborhood flooded. We had 18 inches of water sit in our house for about a week. The entire neighborhood. Lived next to a bayou there in the East Texas. I think it was like 24 inches of rain in less than 8 hours fell. So, things start to flood at that point. So one of the school projects was, I was 16 at the time, and my parents actually had me go ahead and rehab the house. Kind of cool school project right there. So I actually learned how to do all the sheetrocking, all the electrical and all that, and this was before Google. So I actually had to learn how to be able to reach out to different people, contractors and all that kind of stuff, and learn how to actually rebuild a house. So that was kind of my education. From there, I went to the Bible college stuff. While I was in Bible college here in Charlotte, anybody ever hear of Jim Baker from back in the 70s, that kind of thing, the PTL, and Tammy Faye? Our church bought the old heritage facilities. So we actually bought in there as the old 500-room hotel, that kind of thing. I was hired on to do broadcast work. Was good tinkering around with electronics. They were needing somebody, so I came on board a little bit before they bought that. So it's kind of funny because I actually got to be very much involved in the rehab of that 500,000 square foot building, and at the same time was in charge of everything technical that went on with the broadcast stuff that the church was doing. So I was doing satellite uplinks between here and Jerusalem and all kinds of stuff like that. So systems, I'm very big into systems, and to be able to work on that type of scale and that type of size, you have to have systems in place. And on top of that, the church I was working with at the time, my entire staff that I worked with, where there's about 4 of us that were full-time staff members, and we were doing conferences every month, that kind of thing. The majority of my staff, though, was all volunteers. Ages 13 to 99, something like that. So if you can imagine doing television production with nothing but volunteers. So you had to have systems. You had to have ways to make things work. So once I decided to get into real estate, I decided to move on from the broadcast stuff, got into, started doing some multifamily, started looking into that. And I was at a local RIA meeting when I met Larry, and he was looking for an acquisition manager. I was like, this is an opportunity I cannot pass up. So I put my stuff on hold. It's like, okay, this is a time that I need to actually focus and learn from this guy right now. So I've spent the last little bit doing that. I've been with Larry about 3 years now. During that time frame, we all came to realize that I was a much better use for the company with my technical background. So what I've done is I've gone in and I've automated the system to a large extent. And a lot of what you'll see has been basically 3 years in the making. Some of it, I mean, there's stuff changing literally every day that I'm always adding to stuff. But you'll get the basic concepts and goals of what's going on with this. You'll also get like the HUD sheet that'll be there. I'll also show you guys how to do the autofill like what Mercy was using yesterday. I'll also show you some basic stuff with email filters. And here's the thing. All this stuff that I'm using, It's simple stuff. It's simple stuff that you can pull on Google and watch YouTube videos of, that kind of thing. You just got to know how to apply it to whatever it is that you're looking for. The other thing is, if it's something that I don't have a system for, or if it's something that's a little bit over your head, there's a virtual assistant that will be able to understand it and be able to make that happen for you. So don't feel like any of this is out of reach or anything like that. And if you have questions, do let me know, but I do have a lot to go through. So let's go ahead and start right now. I want to go ahead and start on the HUD sheet itself before I get into the other stuff. The HUD sheet, let's go over here real quick. On the HUD home store, let me start here. Every property in the country has something called a case number. So if I come in here to North Carolina and I start scrolling down, see this property case number right here? In database language, that's an ID. There's a unique ID. That is only unique to that one property. So what I'm doing is I'm taking that case number because I know there's not going to be any other property with that number. And with my spreadsheet, I'm just looking to see, is this case number on the HUD home store today? No, it's inactive. That means it's been put under contract or something. Is it still on HUD home store today? Yeah, so it's active. So all I'm doing is I'm just looking at this case number right here each day. Now how do I get that case number? One of two ways. When I go to the HUDhomestore.com, I can actually go in here and see, I can do my search, I can do investor, I can do owner-occupant, whatever it is I want, put in my bedrooms, baths, any of that type of stuff, and then I go ahead in here and click search. See this export to? That's an export to Excel. So I now actually have that search right here in an Excel sheet. Got my case number, my address, my city, my state. See, it's all just the basic info that I need to be able to go ahead and move forward.
Does this just go into a regular Excel sheet, or is this going to the one that you were using?
I'll show you how I'm getting that into it next. I've got a couple other ways I'm working this. So this is one, if you're looking for just one state, something like that, this is great. Now then, let's actually go into my macro. How many of you know what Visual Basics is? Anybody ever hear that? Just a couple? It's a language. It's a programming language in Microsoft. What I've done is I actually came up with a system that I wanted. Then I went ahead and hired a virtual assistant who knew Visual Basics. Visual Basics is a Microsoft programming. It creates macros to where you just click a button and it goes type of thing. I said, I want this to be able to watch the case number. I want to be able to see if it's active, inactive, and just based on that case number. So what he did is he started making a sheet that is a push button sheet. So let's go into that sheet now. All right, so this is the sheet here. And this is actually on your hard drive. And it'll actually only work on Windows, unfortunately, because of it being Visual Basics. The Microsoft for Excel has very limited Visual Basics support for it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. But Windows 7, it's great on. I'm using it on Windows 8. It's got a few little things on it with Windows 8, and I'll show you how to make a walkthrough on that. But yeah, so here we go. When you first open it up, for you guys, there won't be any previous properties on it. For me, I've done this a couple times, so I need to come over here and I need to clear my list. That little orange button's the clear. And like I said, guys, there'll also be a walkthrough on the drive as well. So any of these types of buttons you have questions on, it will be in the drive to explain a little bit more. But I want to walk you through it to see. So now I've cleared my list. I want to tell it what states I want to make offers in. So I come over here. And let's see, what states, where's everybody from?
Texas.
Texas? Okay, so let's put in a Texas. Where else?
California.
California? Indiana? Okay. Michigan? Okay, let's go ahead. Let's stop there. So let's do Indiana. Is that IA? Is that, I'm trying to, IA? IN, okay. And I heard of Massachusetts? Maryland. MI, okay. All right. Well, at least this will get us a start here. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm just basically coming in here and say, I want these states right here. And I'm just using the proper abbreviation code, and I'm making sure that they're capitalized. So now then, let's go ahead and download a sheet. Click that green button. my virtual assistant found a hidden link on the HUD Home Store. This link actually downloads all the properties that are on the entire HUD Home Store based on the investor status. Kind of cool, huh? So let's take a look at that. It's asked me, do I really want to do this after pushing that link? Yep. So it's going ahead and it's bringing it down. It takes a few seconds because it's a lot of properties up there. Yes, I do want to use that. Okay, we're just going to sit and let it go. All right. Before we do the sort, I'm just going to show you guys. Look at this. I got all the way from Alabama.
So this pulls down the entire country?
Entire country. Let's see, 7,740 properties on the market right now. You know, that's a lot of properties right there. So, you know, and notice I didn't actually do any sorting on the bedrooms and baths. I just let it all ride because some states work a little bit differently than others. You can go back and filter that out later. I'm just letting it ride. So, notice I still got all the basic info right in here. I've got, man, this is a long sheet. Scroll back up here to the top. I got my price, my bedrooms, my baths, my square footage, my year built, all that kind of good stuff right here. So now then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save this so I can bring it into my macro. I'm going to do a save as, and I'm going to bring it to my computer, and I'm going to bring it into the huddle. My virtual assistant's a cool little guy. He decided to actually name this whole macro the huddle. Based on HUD and all that kind of stuff. He's a funny little dude. We're going to actually save it as an Excel workbook. Now, I just discovered this today. I'm actually in the office. I use a previous version of Microsoft Excel. I guess in the newest version, Microsoft's trying to bring in something that I guess they're trying to keep from viruses or whatever they try to do, but normally it just confuses everything. Normally, what I do is if you're on the previous version, you just click Save, you're good to go. With this one, you do need to actually add a little bit of a name to it. So today is 5-23-2015 underscore case list. Case underscore list. .xls.
Just do a space.
This macro is looking very specifically for the exact file that came down. So if you're missing it, the underscore, the macro won't notice it. So it's very specific. And like I said, if you're on the previous version of Excel, it'll blow over fine. I just discovered this today because I was using a newer computer with a newer version, and I had not noticed that yet before. But that's the workaround. And actually, if you ever need to find out what it is, literally just go to the HUDHomestore.com, download one of the case sheets, and basically look at how they have their file name exactly lined up, and you're just changing the date for each one because you're just wanting to do it for that day. Makes sense, guys? All right, so now then, we've got that into the sheet, right? Or we're about to save it right now, so let's go ahead and save that. Okay, I can go ahead and close out of this sheet. Now then, for you guys, this would be the end. You'd go ahead and actually start up and do the little sort and say and have these states right here. For me, it's a little bit different because I've actually been working this for a while. So the next step for me would be to actually go over to Google Drive, right here. Remember this sheet here where I had all my states? I'm not going to do it right now because it takes a while to download these, but I would just go ahead and highlight all of them and download them. This is my previous sheets. I'm matching my old data to the new data to see, is it active or inactive? Has that property gone under contract or is it still available? Follow me so far? Now then, one note. If you're using virtual assistants and they're working like we are on these sheets, when you download them, delete them. The reason being, when you start to actually do the sort, if they start working on it while you're doing your sort, what's going to happen? They're changing information that won't be on the new sheet. So you're losing data at that point. So you need to be very careful about that if you're using Google Drive and bringing them up like that. So what I have my virtual assistant, John Paul, do is about 10 minutes, 5 minutes before he brings is going to do his sort, he will actually go in there and email all of us 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away. Then bam, they're gone. The beautiful thing is, when he deletes them, I still got backups. As long as I don't empty out my trash can, because everything goes into the trash in Google Drive. So in case something goes wrong, I still have it there in my trash can. So I'm very cautious about my Google Drive that I never delete my trash can, just because I know the value of what's in my trash can as my backups.
Does it automatically delete at some point out of the trash? Like?
Yes, but it doesn't matter, because once I have my sheet up and I've worked on it a couple of days, it's invaluable to me anyway. Or it's no longer of value to me anyway, let me put it that way. So, I'm not going to do this right now. I'm not going to download it because, like I said, that takes a little bit of time. But anyway, yes, ma'am.
One question. When you, how do you get that box that shared, the link that was created? What did you put right at this point? Will it bring the box in our flash drive?
Let's see, which box are we talking about? The one on the
When you want to go ahead and extract those from those cities, those states, Texas, CA.
Okay, you want to bring them down? So what you want to do then is this. I'll just show you that real quick. What I do is I will go back over here. I will click on that one and then press Shift. I don't know, this is just some basic computer skills right here. If you press Shift and then click anything down at the bottom of a line, it'll highlight that entire line for you. Then all I do is I right click and download. And it'll download all those files for me. Once it's downloaded, I then do that exact same thing, and I click remove, and now they're all gone. Does that make sense?
All of those instructions are in the
Yeah, you'll see me walk through. And in fact, I'll tell you this real quick, guys. When working with virtual assistants, communication is vital to be able to show them exactly what you want to do, right? I mean, we're talking about people who are 12 hours ahead of us a lot of times, on a whole other side of the planet. So communication with them and trying to show them exactly what you want sometimes can be a little bit difficult over Skype, as you all saw yesterday, with the delay and everything like that. What I do is, and you'll see this in the thing, I do video tutorials all the time. I'll actually go in and I'll actually show my virtual assistant. Now here's what I want to do, and I actually do a recording with a screen capture of my computer going, now here's what's going on here, here's what I needed to do, and I'll just lay out some side notes as well, and I'll hand it off to them, and then they'll come back with any questions, and then we just hash it out from there. Some great software for that. For Microsoft Office, or for Microsoft Active Presenter. It's a free download. It'll allow you to actually do screen capture like I'm doing, and it'll be exactly like the videos you'll be seeing on the drive there. So Active Presenter, I would make sure I have that on my computer at all times if you're working with virtual assistants, because that's a really good way to communicate with them. If you're on a Mac, you can actually do screen grabbing right within QuickTime. There's actually screen grabbing, and it'll actually capture your microphone as well. So, two great tools right there. Okay, moving on. So we've now downloaded this, let's pretend, and we're now going back over here to my sheet. I'm going to click the red button here, and it's going to ask me where I saved everything. I'll put it in this folder, even though it doesn't show anything there. I know I saved it here, so I'm just going to click OK. And then just wait.
Doesn't Google have a Google Talk or something that's like a Skype?
It does, and I actually like it better than Skype, but it's still one of those. What I'll do is I'll start off with the Active Presenter type thing, and then when it gets to the question part, then I'll go to a Skype or Google Hangouts. Because I've started off with something he can go back to, and then from there we can actually get into more hashing out the details in a conversation. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. Look, here we go. It's about ready to go. It's actually pulled in all the stuff. It's looking for active, inactive, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to go ahead and click the plus button. Bam. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look in my folder. Okay. Sorry. I'll need to repeat the question. Been forgetting that. Here we go. So let's do this. Desktop. Let's go back over here to the Huddle folder. Sort Huddle, 52315. Upload. There we go. Alabama, California, Indiana, Michigan, North Carolina, Texas. Let's take a look here at Texas. Bam. There's the sheet right there. So I just upload those to Google Drive, and then you're ready to work. Now then, when you first start off, remember we were talking about 85, 90 days, that kind of thing? Remember I was talking about purple being a color I like because that's a new property. Unfortunately, a while back ago, HUD took off the appraisal date. I used to be able to download that. I'm very sad that they took that off because that actually was the way I actually used to be able to keep up with how long it's been on market. So my workaround was this. It takes a little bit for the sheet to actually, in a new state, really kick in. Really, it takes about 90 days before you're going to be 100% accurate in your appraisal date. Unless you're going through and looking at each property and going to Zillow or going to HUD Home Value, taking a look at when they have the property listed originally and inputting that date here into the appraisal date. You're actually going to have to do some digging. Once it gets to where about 90 days in, sometimes a little bit more, the majority of your sheet's going to be 100% accurate as it comes in. What I'm doing is I know it takes 15 days from the day it's listed till it hits investor status. So I just take and subtract 15 days from the day it goes into my sheet, and that's the original list date. Make sense? So that's what I'm doing there. Yes? It's filtered, but I know that the first time it hits my investor filter, that it's already been on the market for 15 days. So I have my sheet automatically put the list date 15 days before it hits my sheet. So it's just basic math going into it. And I'm using just some basic logic because I know when, roundabout. At the end of the day, it's not like there's a magic, this is the date that is actually going to happen on. It's a generality. I'm looking at a general time frame that they're going to be looking at it. So I'm looking, plus or minus 5 days, 10 days. And even at that, I've hit 90 days, and they still are only countering me 10% off a list price. Then sometimes it's 120 days, and all of a sudden they're like ready to deal. It's a general thing. So now then, like I said, this is going to take a little bit. If I go here to the inactive version of the sheet, there's nothing there, right? Because this is the first time you run it. So now then, it's split up right here. Anything over 100K is on this side. Anything below 100K is on this side. The reason I split it like that, some people like to work with higher end properties and don't like to work with lower end properties. So this is a good way for you to be able to keep them separated from each other. Yes, ma'am?
How is it that you're separating them?
Just right here at the bottom. See this little tab right here? Active 100K plus, active 100K minus. So, so it's right there. And then my inactive. And over time, you'll see, like with mine over here, let's go over to the North Carolina where I've been actually keeping this up for the longest. How I'm separating them out, how to actually see the difference. It's the tabs at the bottom. So I'll go over here to North Carolina because I've been keeping up with this one for quite a few years. Watch this. So I'm waiting for it to load. Inactive over here. And I mean, it's going to take some time. See, I'm dragging it down. There's 4,700, and it's still loading. And in fact, I think I finally actually hit the limit as to what I can actually have on one side of a sheet, and to where I'm actually having to delete some properties. And notice it was still loading as I was pulling. So I mean, I like to keep everything. The reason being, I've seen properties come back 6 months later where they held it off market. And in fact, I know of a property that's sitting right now in Fayetteville that we put under contract. I actually went over to it personally because I was actually thinking about doing a fix and flip on it. Had way too much structural issues. The chimney was pulling away, that kind of thing. We sent it back to HUD, and I was actually in Fayetteville the other day and saw the house still vacant, empty, abandoned, but it still hasn't even come back on market since we let it go, and that was 2 years ago.
What identifies on this system when it goes from inactive back to active?
What happens is it goes back to that case number. When it goes back onto the HUD Home Store, all of a sudden that case number shows back up on the HUD Home Store.
I mean, do you have a signal that alerts you that the inactive property became active again on your
Yes. Yes. When it goes to the inactive, it all gets marked orange. Then when it comes back to the active side, it carries that orange over it for a day. So what I'm doing is I'm using that orange as my color code. And the way this sheet gets sorted is this. The top is actually the longest on market. And over time, like I said, it'll take some time for your sheet to really get, it becomes literally to me like a living organism, because it takes time, it takes some growth, it takes some massaging to it. But over time, it'll start telling you what's going on in that state in whatever area you're working. The oldest stuff will get to the top, the newest stuff will be at the bottom, everything in between is the stuff to get your eyes on. The stuff that comes in the orange needs to be looked at again. Has some new comps come in, that kind of thing, what Randolph was saying yesterday. I've also got this thing to where it's starting to macro itself out with colors. The red, it's letting me know, hey, it's over 85 days. Hey, it's over 90 days. See, down here, I'm not going to spend as much time on these because I know they're not ready for it, unless I know it's a deal and I can pay darn close to what they're asking for it. Notice I got a percentage list counter. All I'm doing is I'm just taking this counter right here, and I'm taking the current list price right here. What's the percentage off of it? Notice I've also got the original list price. When the sheet gets pulled from HUD the first time, I have that number from the list price placed in that original list price. And it never gets touched again, because I want to see where it was listed at and where it's at now. Notice this one here. This was at $79,000 originally. Now it's at $62,700. Last counter was $47,000. That's almost 50% off of what they originally had it at. There may be some room for me to move up and actually make a deal on this. You know, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of looking through this. I'm starting to learn what's going on, and I'm just letting the sheet talk to me. And I've got color codes in here that really mean nothing, like these yellows. All they are is just kind of separation points to where, you know, when you start looking at this big, long thing, you need some kind of break points. Last price change, don't have to worry too much about that. That's actually part of the macro. It needs to be in there to be able to make the macro work. It's nothing that you need to pay attention to. The case number's in there. Just moving on down the line. I think you all saw yesterday, whenever you place the highest and best in, it automatically calculates from there. Last highest and best. If it's still empty, then that means that the entire time that you've been bidding on it, it's never actually gone off market yet. Once it goes off market, that sheet stamps what your last highest and best was, and then you know that it's gone off market, and when it comes back, it still has it there for you to be able to replace it back in. But like we were talking about yesterday, I don't want to just keep it there, because then I have Wendy yelling at me because I forgot to change my bid because I bid too much. So be sure to pay attention to those oranges. That orange is crucial, because if you don't, you'll be bidding on that property if you really want it. Like I said, it just goes in there and deletes it. It's a good thing to have. It's a safety mechanism. Outside of that, the only other things really are this right here. This is all pulling straight from I guess let me explain it this way. Almost all web addresses, like HUD Home Store, HUD Home Value, Google Maps, Bing Maps, Zillow, and all that kind of stuff, if you start looking at it, like let's go over here to Zillow. And notice up here in the web address, Zillow Homes 278-Speedway-Drive-Reedsville-NC-27320_RB. That's basically just them sticking the address to the property in it to actually generate the link to that property. So all I've done is I've taken the address that's in the sheet and just automatically created a link that Zillow uses automatically. Pretty much all websites do that exact same thing. So anytime that you ever want to add different, other real estate sites that come up that you want to add or anything like that, you can actually customize links to them by just looking at the web address and seeing, okay, there's the address there. So if I just take and just change this right here, I can actually customize that. So, I don't know. All this is fixed. He's asking what the RB is. Really, I don't know what the RB is. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter to me. All that matters to me is that the address is the thing I need to change. Does that make sense? Okay. And I'm just showing you guys that. Take it for whatever you want. I mean, you'll find that in pretty much everything. That's just that exact same thing when dealing with real estate. Okay. Any questions on the HUD sheet before I move on?
Next.
Yes.
You said that it's not usable in
Right. If you don't have a Mac, or if you have a Mac, because like you're asking, it's not usable on a Mac. Several ways you can do it. You can actually get a copy of Windows on your computer using VirtualBox. That's a free virtual software. Then you just have to pay a copy for that. Or the other thing is, go ahead and just get yourself a virtual assistant. Pay them $5 a week to do the macro for you. Have it all put up there, that kind of thing.
I mean, I can view it on Google Docs, right?
You can view it on Google Docs, but that macro that I just went through that does all the sorting, that only works on a Windows machine.
Well, I mean, I have parallels in Windows 8.
Okay.
I mean, but I would have to get Excel on the Windows side.
Yeah, and this only works in Excel.
Okay.
Does that make sense, guys?
But not Excel for Mac.
But not Excel for Mac, just because it's one of those that the visual basics in Excel on Mac, they really handicapped it, honestly.
And you do know what kind of computer your boss uses, right?
I do know, and I actually have one at home too. I am a huge Mac advocate. I really am. Unfortunately, Microsoft did their thing and they handicapped. In fact, just so you guys know how virtual I am with everything, my phone's dinging like crazy right now. The reason being, I've got somebody out there placing signs for me for a house we've got for sale, and they're sending me photos of all the signs they're placing. I'll get into that later on the sales stuff, but it's so funny. Anyway, moving on. Any other questions on the sheet before I move on to the next thing? Yes, ma'am.
So when you download the list of properties from the HUD website, do I have this spreadsheet that you created open so that you can put it in that spreadsheet?
You just have all the files saved in. Sorry, she's asking if you have to actually have all the sheets open to do the sort, basically. What you need to do is you need to actually download the sheets. You don't have to have them open. You need to download them and put them all in one folder together. And then when you point it using this red button right here, and point it to the folder they're all in, it automatically looks and sees, okay, here's the old sheet, here's the new sheet, and it will automatically merge all the data together. You don't have to have anything open. It does all the work for you.
And again, that's in the video.
That's in the VBA here, or the macro. Yes, so that red button right there, whenever you push it, you need to make sure that your old sheets and your new sheet are in that folder that you go to, and then it knows how to pull it all together. The other key thing is be sure you never change the name of the sheet that you sorted. So when you go to upload it to Google Docs, or if you just use it on Excel, never do a save as and change that name. It's very name specific. If you do that, it won't know what to look for. Okay? Yes, sir?
If I wanted to add Trulia,
Same concept.
how do I add it?
How do you add Trulia? Sorry, so used to conversation. To add Trulia, the macro is pretty well built in. Honestly, I didn't even know I didn't have Trulia in it until just this week. I have it in everything else, but I didn't know I didn't have it here. So what you do is you basically go to Trulia, go in there, add it, and you'd actually have to manually add it from there, because the macro, if you try to go in there and start messing with it, it'll start to break. Honestly, the quickest and easiest is just going to be do a Google search. To add it in, the macro would.
To the spreadsheet, I'm saying.
Yeah, it would actually break the sheet. It actually has to get programmed in. I didn't even know that it was missing until like just this week when I started to look at it. Okay, any other?
Can you tell me, under that status section, what does the dollar sign mean?
Under the status section,
The middle.
I'm.
In the middle of the screen.
Status.
Oh, here. She's asking under the status section, what does the dollar sign mean? Let's see.
It means guaranteed bills or commissions.
Guaranteed. Okay, extended commissions. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, here's what's funny. I never actually really go here to look. I just actually look at everything from a sheet. So there we go. All right, let's move on because we got a bunch more to cover. All right, so now then, we are going to a realtor and we're asking for their NAID number and all that kind of stuff. Most of them aren't going to give you that from the get-go, right? Because you need to develop a working relationship. So here's what you can do with the tools I'm about to give you. You can actually approach the realtor that you're working with saying, hey, if you help me out, I can help you out. I've got tools that I can bring your way that can help automate this process and help simplify the workflow to where you can make a lot of offers very quickly. So let's get into that. Some of the tools I use, you know, y'all saw earlier today, Wendy was showing all these contracts from HUD and that kind of thing. There's 3 asset managers that the majority of the country works off of. I just actually recently discovered California has its own, which is BLB. I've never actually dealt with them because I don't actually deal with California properties. But I'm sure it's very similar in concept as to what I'm about to do here. Ofori, when you get an offer accepted, what they do is they actually send a link in the email, and it will send you to a website where the agent has to put in their NAID number, and I think it's a confirmation number from the bid that was sent. And all that's in the email, except for their NAID number. From there, it sends them to a web page, and that web page has just basic info about the buyer and the agent. And they just fill that out. It's just a general web form. Unfortunately, they only that link lasts for like 24 hours, if that. I haven't gotten an Ofori property in the last 24 hours, so I can't show you guys that right now. But it's a fairly simple process, straightforward. Home Telos is actually right now one of the more difficult ones because they send in the contract. And it's almost completely filled out except for a couple things. So you got to go in, you got to download it. Fill out those few pieces of info. So you're at their mercy to actually send it to you as well. PIMCO, I actually like theirs, oddly enough. I'll show you this. What I like to do with all my documents, I like to set up master documents. And see within here, I've got the copy of the PIMCO contract. I've got all my info already right here filled out in the purchaser info. I've got all the selling broker info already filled out. I got my closing attorney already ready in here. The only other thing I got to go do is I got to go down to the very bottom where they have the closing instructions for the buyer select state. There's only a couple fields within there that they don't have filled out at the top. Basically, if you fill this out, it fills out the rest of the sheet, except for pages, I think it's, let's see, I think it's 7, yeah, or no, 6 and 12. And honestly, if you basically have a contract pre-laid out for each of the states that you're working in with all your info in place, with the closing attorney in place, all your agent has to do is come in, fill in the case number, the address, the purchase price, the closing costs, the commission, and the date of the offer, and that's it. That contract's filled out. Instead of them having to go in and fill in all the rest of the info all together, it's already there. And what I do is I just do this with every document I find. If I know it's going to be something that's going to be repetitive, I just do that. Now then, the way I do that is this. On Windows, there's a program called Nitro Reader. Everybody's familiar with Adobe Reader, that kind of thing. I do not like Adobe Reader. Reason being, it's very picky and very limited about what it'll allow me to save. I like to set up templates because I don't like to fill out the same thing over and over and over and over again. So Nitro Reader allows me to actually save almost any PDF in a template format like I did just here. So I can actually go into here, take a blank version of this PIMCO contract, fill out all those fields like I just did, come up here, this is Nitro Reader by the way, do File, Save As, PDF document, and then bam. If I did that in an Adobe product, it's hit or miss as to whether or not it'll allow me to do it. Nitro, it's like 99% of the time it'll allow me to do that. Also, I can actually flatten this document if I wanted to as well. So say this is a contract that's ready, said, done, I don't want anybody to ever make a change to it again. I click that Save As Flatten version, and it just flattens it, makes it so to where you can't fill out any more fields again. So Nitro Reader, I use this for a lot of stuff. I also use it, some agents that you work with actually want the cancellation form. So you just want to bid and, let's go over here. So you just want to bid and you paid too much for it, or you just found out the foundation's got some issues, that kind of thing. What I've done is I've gone ahead and actually filled out all the cancellation forms for each of the asset companies and left it blank for the property address and all that kind of good stuff, and just signed it. So I've got all my documents in place to where my realtor that's working with me, they don't have to come to me. It's all right there, ready for them. They can go right straight to my Google Drive folder like I was talking about yesterday. Bam, right here. So I've got it all set up for them. So yeah, that's how I kind of work with the PDFs. The other thing I'll set up, let's see here. Do I have a copy of it on me? I know I got it on my desktop at the office. I think I forgot to grab it here. I've got a copy of my authorization to purchase, where I'm basically assigning an assistant to the realtor the ability to sign the contract for me. That's how I'm able to buy houses in different states and us not have to sign for it. I'm signing a piece of paper that says, hey, your assistant can sign for us on this piece of paper. So I've got it all lined out to where all I've got to do is put in the address to the property and the name of the person, and then bam. And I don't actually give it to them until I've actually looked at that property and said, yes, I'm ready to do that. Deal. That way they're not just going ahead and signing contracts on properties I don't want to do. Next thing, along these same lines, I've got filled out right over here. I keep on my own desktop. I got the for each state I'm working, I just have a little folder on my desktop that I've got the state contract master on. Resolution of authorization. Here it is. See, I've got it already ready. I resolved that Paul Olson is able to sign for 10403 Oak Street right here. Execute this date right here. Good to go. Already signed with Larry's name, that kind of thing. So you see how I'm just kind of automating these things, having all my documents in a row, using Nitro Reader to have this stuff in place. In fact, in Nitro Reader, I can actually upload a copy of my signature and place it on documents on the fly. That kind of thing. Now that doesn't fly for signing the HUD document because that's got to be an original ink signature. But anything that doesn't have that, I use this right here. Let's keep on going. Now then, to help myself, because I've got such a limited amount of time to get this done, I can forget who to make the earnest money check out to. Luckily, I have an account in the office that makes me actually sign a check request form. So what I've done is for each of the asset companies, I go in there and I make a check request form and I actually have who it's payable to, the amount, property address, and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, it's not a bad idea to have something like that in your documentation for your own personal records. And notice, I'm doing this for PIMCO. I have this for Home Telos, and I have this for 040 because each of those checks need to go to somebody different. So I've got a folder that says Home Telos, PIMCO, and all that, and I've got that check request form already pre-filled out with who that needs to go to. Sometimes it needs to be made out to the list agent, and it says make out to list agent. So I know when I need to make out that check, I need to go get the list agent's info. So I'm not having to think. I don't want to think. I need to be able to act. So I'm doing all the thinking beforehand. So there we go. Any questions so far on documents and how I've done the automation with the PDFs and all that? Yes, sir?
Is that Nitro, is that the free version or is it a paid version?
He's asking if the Nitro is a free or paid. It's actually, I'm using the free version. I've also got a copy of the paid version, and the reason I do that, I also like to create my own PDF documents where I have the blue fields in it, like how you're used to. I've also got a copy or the subscription to the Adobe Creative Suite. So I've actually got a copy of Acrobat Pro to where I can actually do my own creation of documents. But it's not something you really need to have to get going. I just like to have fun with that type of stuff. Any other questions on documents real quick? Yes, ma'am. Now, remember what I said, you're asking about the signature and being that it's already on there and it's electronic, that kind of thing, and if there's any issues with it. Remember, HUD and their contract has to be original ink. Any type of corrections that they ask for, in the email it'll tell you what it needs to be original ink, or if not. If it doesn't need to be original ink, I just stamp it. If it needs to be original ink, then I actually get the actual physical piece of paper and actually get it signed. But actually, for the most part, I don't touch it. It's whoever I've assigned as my power of attorney for that property. They're the ones dealing with it. And on top of that, normally it's whoever's in that realtor's office, because I have to assign power of attorney to them. So they just take care of it right then and there, so I don't get messed with that problem. Keeps it a lot more streamlined all the way through. Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Now then, let's go over here. So I showed you that. Let's exit out of here. Okay, y'all saw me using a fun little pencil tool yesterday for Firefox. This little pencil tool is pretty cool. What it allows me to do is any form. Okay, yes, my session's expired. So what I can do is if I right-click on this website, it sees these little fields right here. And what I've done is I've gone to autofill forms. I've typed that into Google for Firefox. And it's just a free plugin for my browser right here. And see, it now adds it right here. And whenever I right-click on a form field, it now adds this little option, fill out this field. I have profiles I've already set up, or add a rule for this field. So anything that's actually got a form field, web page-wise, I use this for Fannie Mae offers. Any realtors in here that's filled out a Fannie Mae offer and had to put it up on their website, it can be cumbersome. This is a great way to do that. I actually have almost everything to the Fannie Mae website macroed out with this like I do HUD. Or I just click on it. Just my little pencil, anything that's a standard fill out. Now then, HUD, on some of their web pages, notice I had to right-click to do this. On some of their web pages, they've actually taken away the right-click ability. I think it's some kind of JavaScript that they've put in there to where you can't right-click. So what I do there is I go to right-to-click. Another Firefox plugin. Basically, you take it away, I get it right back. It's just another free plugin, and it takes away whatever encryption's there, and I can actually right-click on whatever form field again to where I can actually set up my macros. So I'm just using those types of tools right there. Simple stuff. Auto form fillers. Right-to-click. That's great stuff. These only work for Firefox, like I said earlier. So now then, in your drive, there's going to be a profile, HUD bid master profile. Let's take a look at this profile real quick. Let's go over here. When you open it up, for some reason it always puts the stuff at the bottom. It always opens in some weird format, so I have to adjust it. You can see right here is all the fields that I've pre-laid out for you guys. You can see the name of it right up here. The address that it works for is the HUD Home Store. I can actually delete fields if I wanted to. I can remove fields, add fields, that kind of thing. Let's go over here to simple. It's a little bit easier to see. So here's the field names right here, and then here's the info that needs to be placed in it. So what I've done for you guys is I've actually laid it out to where everything's pretty much filled out. Here's the NAID number. So NAID type, this one you wouldn't touch. See, text NAID, and you'll want to walk, when you do this, for setting up for yourself, I've got a video walking through it, and you'll actually want to watch the video when you do this, because it's very specific about exactly where you want to put this, because if you mess up any of the code, it will break the form filling process. But if you watch the video, go through it, you'll be good to go. It's actually fairly easy to do. So it says text NAID. So right here, you enter in the NAID number for the broker. Or the broker can actually watch through the video and do this themselves. Real estate license number. Real estate license number. You just place that right in here. Be sure you delete that info right there and put in the number, whatever it is. These next two are automatically saying that, hey, we're not going to put, aren't asking for any closing cost assistance or anything like that, so we got a 0 there. It's taking care of buyer's broker commission right here. If you've negotiated a special rate with your broker, that's where you'd put the $250 or $500 or $1,000, whatever it may be. Or you just leave it blank if you haven't actually negotiated any type of special number right there. It automatically will say that we're an investor. They can hold the backup or hold the offer as a backup. I like to have my offers held as a backup. That's one of the options when you make it. The reason being, we've actually had it before where we messed up on the contract, still sent in the stuff, had a mess up, and then they rejected that contract, but we were the next bid in line being held as a backup, so we got that same property again because we were the backup bid. I like to have my stuff held as backup. That's the reason being. From there, any ID number, you just place that right in here. Your purchaser any ID number, right here, they like a confirmation. This is where you put your company name, your company address, your city. Now then, one thing, and this is where you really got to be careful, is where you put your state, because you got to put your state in. I've got it right now as Alabama. I don't want to hit the $ or the up arrow right next to it. I want to make sure I'm doing in between. I'm putting AL capitalized. That will actually do the drop down for the state and fill it out automatically. Your zip code, and your buyer email address. So if you want to get notifications or anything like that, you can put your email address there, and you'll get the actual email notifications that they send to you as a buyer, but not as the agent. You can use this for pretty much anything. I mean, you can go in there and macro out any type of forms or anything like that. And like I said, there is actually a video on the drive that will actually walk you through step by step, so you can actually fill this out for yourselves. Any questions on this before I move on to the next step? Yes, sir.
If I'm using iMacro, is that fine?
You're asking if you use iMacro. I've never used iMacro, so I don't know. Doesn't hurt to try, but you can see the basic concept of what I'm doing as I walk through the video and that kind of thing. You can see if it works, but this is already pre-laid out for you. Yes, sir.
So this is the differentiator why you'd be using Firefox as opposed to Chrome or Windows?
You're asking if this is differentiation between them. And yes, the reason I don't use Chrome or anything like that when I'm using the HUD Home Store is because this extension only exists on Firefox right now. And that's the reason why. Is I can actually come in here and have all my profiles set up, and you can see I've got all my states right here on drop down. I don't have to have any passwords known. I don't have to have anything like that. I just bring in the profile. I'm good to go.
Is Windows 2 clunky for all the work that you do?
Yes and no. It's one of those, you're asking, is Windows 2 clunky? I love Mac. I'm a big Mac fan. But unfortunately, there are just a couple little tools that have only been working on Windows. What you see right now, the Firefox stuff, that works on Mac. Unfortunately, Nitro Reader does not work on Mac. Preview in Mac, which is the built-in PDF application in Mac, is actually pretty darn good. There's a few features in Nitro that are better, but I can actually get away with Preview pretty significantly. Outside of that, the big downfall right now is that Visual Basics for being able to do the HUD sort. That's really where you're going to run into the difference between the Mac and the PC. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So you basically can export those profiles and send them to the agent?
Yeah, you're asking about can you export the profiles? Yeah, it's real easy. And in fact, that's settings right up. Like I said, it is a little funky on its Windows settings. Whoever developed this has got a great little thing, but they didn't get their Windows sizing right. So I come over here to Profiles, Import, Export. Or I can just click on an individual one. I can export current profile, export all profiles. I go here to Import Profile, and let's see, I got Documents, Profile. There's my profiles. I click Open, and they'd all be right there. So it's very user-friendly that way. It's just a little text edit sheet, so it's passable. And the beautiful thing is my virtual assistants don't know the passwords to any of these accounts. They could change it if they wanted to, but I've hired people that I can trust, but the big thing is they don't know any of the passwords. It's hidden, yeah. Okay, any other questions real quick before I move on?
That's really
Okay. Now then, y'all saw me doing some really cool things with email yesterday, right? Let's get into that. Email, you guys saw yesterday that there's a lot to do with email in there. So let's bring up two different accounts. Right over here. We'll set these up side by side so you can see how I've laid these out.
Are you on Windows 8 or 7 or XP?
I'm on Windows 8 right now, which I do not like at all. But at my desk at the office, I've got Windows 7, and then when I'm at home and at heaven with my Mac. So, here we go. Right here is my realtor's email account. When I first get into it, I actually go in and I will set up forwarding. And forwarding is real easy to do. I just click add a forwarding email address, put in the address I want to forward it to. What I normally do is I have my realtor set up an email account that is specific to HUD. I don't want anything else. I've got an agent right now in Texas I'm having to get fixed because he gave me his junk email account that he also had linked up with his HUD account. So I'm getting spammed like crazy and I'm not able to keep up with my HUD stuff because it's also his spam account. So when I'm talking to them, he's giving me a new one, I just need to change it over. But when I do this, I don't want anything but HUD dealing with it because I can sort stuff that way. So what I do is I have all my forwarding set up. I forward it to my email address, and I also forward it to their main email address, their work one, the one that they have on their cell phone that's going to get notifications. Because this thing's going to get so many notifications throughout the day that they don't need to be paying attention to that. They just need to know when they got an acceptance or when something's gone wrong with the contract or something along those lines. Does that make sense? I don't want them getting bogged down with the counter, the this, and the that. So I've got those forwards set up. Once I do that, I go into my filter section. And all I'm doing is I'm coming in here and I'm setting up a couple filters. I have read tens and tens of thousands of HUD emails to try and take a look and see what type of system they're using. Every state's just slightly different, but there's a few key things you'll see throughout all the emails, especially in their headers. And all I'm doing is I'm coming over here to filters, and let's do the counter one. I come in here, filter, counter, and notice I have quotation marks around it. This quotation marks in coding means I want it to be exactly like this word. I don't want submit a counter if. I want our counters or something like that. I want exactly counter, and I want it to look exactly like this. So that's what I've done. Anything that has this exact word counter in it, exactly like this, I want this email to go to a special place. So I click continue. I want it to skip the inbox, archive it. I don't want to see it. I want to mark it as read. I want to apply the filter, and I just create a filter called counter. And then I click update, and that's it. So when I come in here now, there's all my counters. So my assistant can go in here and pull all the counters and take a look and read them, put them in my HUD sheet, and move on. And notice how they're time coded over here, so we're good to go. The other thing I can do is once I create that little folder over here on the side, I can color code it. So if I'm actually looking at all, you'll see this come into play on the other side, but I just color code everything. I like color codes. It helps me be able to see stuff faster. So let's go back over here to my settings again. I clicked the wrong button. Filters, reduced. Same thing right in here. See, it's just reduced. I found that with HUD, pretty much all of them have the reduced. There's a couple states where I've just recently discovered they have something slightly different, and I'm adjusting in those states. But what I highly recommend is this. For your area, watch this title headline. Look for keywords or a key phrase that is only in that specific email that you don't want to see in abundance of. This one, I know it's a reduced email. I know reduced is not used that often outside of just the property reduction prices. So I know right here, there it is. Also, I forgot to mention this to you. On the HUD sheet as well, it will, on the current list price, it will flash red on a day that the price gets reduced. So that's something else to keep watch of. So you see you get the email that says reduced, but my sheet also tells you the day it gets reduced as well. Because it's actually watching the HUD website, and normally I get that reduction before I even get the notification for email that it's been reduced. So there you go. That's in there as well. And also in the drive, there'll be a lot of walkthroughs on how to actually use email filters. I'm just kind of walking you through the philosophy behind it and showing you step by step. But in the actual drive, there'll be some more with it, along with the Word document that kind of step by step walks you through it too, along with the video. So now then, let's go back. So we've got the reduced filter. Now then, this one here is the important one. I want to know my acceptances, or anything that's outside of an acceptance that could be, I just got it accepted, the list agent sending me a notification, hey, you just got the bid accepted, or hey, you just had an issue with the contract, here's what's going on. So I come in here, and this is very key to have this code exactly the way that it is. I'm looking for non-price reduced. I'm looking for non-market. I'm looking for not return to market, counter. Those have quotation marks in between each thing, or is separating them. I don't want to have counter or return to market or property reduced, anything like that. And I've got it bracketed off with a negative in front of it. That negative sign says, do not put, I don't want to see emails with this in front of it, is what that is. So it's a great way, as you start getting into more stuff, you can actually use email filters outside of HUD. You know, nowadays, with how many emails people get, it's very good to learn how to use your email filters, because this can really free up a lot of time in general. Yes, ma'am?
Just so I'll be clear, you're sharing to, because you did the filters on those particular keywords or whatever, you want to now go in and say anything else coming outside of HUD or whatever, I don't want to see any of that.
Correct. You're asking about like these keywords and specifically what I'm doing with that. And what it boils down to is this. With this filter in here, because we already know HUD does a ton of counter emails, return to market, and price reduced. Those are the ones they do every single day. Now I'm saying let's take all those emails and shove them to the side. Now this is the meat. This is the acceptances. Now let's put those into an acceptance folder, and then here's the next thing I have it do. I have it skip the inbox, I put it into its own folder. I have it forwarded to my list agent, or to my buyer's agent, because that's the email they need to know. That's the one that tells them, hey, we got documents that need to be done. Make sense? So that's the very important one, and this is the one out of all of them that you need to get right. And I make sure I test it. I make sure I go in there, and when I do that, I send an email to the HUD email account going counter. I make sure I have it in the title. I make sure I test out those filters to where I'm making sure they're getting the correct emails. Sometimes it takes a little bit, but there we go. Now then, on the flip side, I have their email account forwarding to my email account. So let's go take a look at my filters. I got a lot of filters. In fact, my virtual assistant, who is actually a programmer, he went into this one point to actually forward these emails to himself so he can do some counter stuff, and he thought I was crazy. He was like looking through it like, I have no clue what you're doing. But once I explained it to him, he caught the concept. But basically, everything that you just saw in my buyer's agent email account, I'm doing the exact same thing in my email account, but on a per individual basis. So let's go over here. Remember, I was talking yesterday about the Control F. This is why I use Control F all the time, is in stuff like this. When I'm looking through long pages like this, notice I did the, and I'm now pulling it up right now. So here we go. Sweet Carolina houses. Woohoo! That's windy right there. So All I do is every email that comes in from HUD at Sweet Carolina Houses, I have it come in, skip the inbox, apply HUD NC Wendy. So all my Wendy emails go to the side. Now then, let's go back. And there it is. Notice I do the same thing, counter, but I'm putting it all under subfolders. Counters, reduced, return to market. So let's go ahead and put this in. Let's take a look at it. See? The quotations. Now I've added a slight difference to it is I've added the email address that it's from. Actually, that it's to. The reason I'm doing to is because HUD sent the email to HUD at Sweet Carolina Houses. So that email is now getting forwarded to me with my email address, but it was originally sent to HUD at Sweet Carolina Houses. So I'm using the to block because that was originally who it was to, and that's who it's actually labeled as to in my email account now. A little confusing, I know. It's in the walkthrough. Just follow the steps. You'll be good. All right, skip the inbox, mark as read, apply the label. There we go, right on in. Now then, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the acceptances. So, now what I do from here is, let's go ahead and exit this. Let's go back to my settings. Let's do filters and Control F. Acceptances. Okay, notice I did the same thing with the acceptances here, but I'm going to look for another one. We want to be able to see our bid acceptances as they happen. Is that right? All right, this one right here. So we're going to click Edit. Pretty much every state has this exact phrase in the acceptance notice right here. Bid acceptance notice. So I've actually put it in here as a quotation. I have it apply the label bid acceptance. There it is, right here. So I know instantly, just by having this open, I had this email account open all day long. So when I see a number pop in here, I know I just got a property accepted. So I now then go in here and see. Once again, I was talking about color codes earlier. Here they are. See, I've labeled each of my realtors a different color. Bam. Bam. So that when I come into my acceptances, I know, oh, it's for this state. So I need to talk to this realtor. I need to pull it up and take a look. Let's take a look at what one of these acceptances look like. So it's telling me the case number, the street address. So I'm pulling up the HUD home store, taking a look at that. I'm pulling up my sheet to see what I bid on it. I'm logging into Wendy's account to see. Now then, you may not have that exact ability to be able to log in like if you're starting off and you're helping your agent automate, like I was talking about before, but over time when you develop the relationship, then you can get to where you're at this level. And all these are just tools that you can use either yourself or that you can actually bring to your realtor and say, hey, let me help you make offers if you help me get deals. So that's what I'm doing with all these types of things. Before I move on to VPNs, any questions on these filters or anything like that within this segment? Nope. Okay. Moving on then. We got a lot to cover today. Sorry, guys. Because I really want to spend a lot of time also in sales on marketing too. And that'll be coming up in just a little bit. Okay, guys. So, VPNs. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. Am I correct, Todd? Is that? Okay, correct. I use VPNs a lot with my assistants. I use them for my marketing. I'll get into that in a few minutes why I do that. But I also use it for HUD. Because HUD, with how many offers we have going in there so fast, and y'all saw Mercy, I mean, she was barely going yesterday. You can see with the autofill form that I'm not a bot. I'm not an electronic thing. I'm just using a normal tool that's available to anybody. It's just got a profile in it. So I'm not breaking any of the rules for using their website. So I'm still good to go. But they don't like seeing foreign IP addresses. I know of another investor who their agent, or their buyer's agent, this is before they started using VPNs, all their bids were coming from India HUD saw the massive amount of bids coming in really quickly from an Indian IP address, thought that the buyer's agent that they were using had hired a bot to actually try and flood the website, stripped them of their NAID number, banned them from the HUD website from life. So it's very important. They actually had to go to their state senator to actually be able to get the agent reinstated to be able to actually make bids. So this step here is very, very important if you're going to be using people from overseas. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just one of those that they don't like to see foreign IP addresses. So I've got several different little tricks right here. Hola. So let's go take a look. Hola. This one's a free one. Free VPN, secure browsing, unrestricted access. I love unrestricted. Little download plugin. Let's turn this little baby on. And I can come in here and turn it on. I love it because now I can watch Netflix in any country. Remember I was saying my wife's from Germany? They just launched Netflix. Actually, I was in Germany when they launched Netflix in Germany. I was all excited going through everything there. She loves it because now she can actually watch all the German movies or all the stuff over there is streamed online, so she can just change her IP address. That way, any Downton Abbey fans, you can use this to actually watch it as they launch it in England. So you just change your IP address to England, and yeah, I'll let you Google the rest. So fun stuff. Now we're getting into the fun world here. So I can come in here, let's just say Netflix, says I'm browsing from the US, but I don't want to be in the US anymore. Look at all these countries I can change to. I want to be, Botswana. Why? I don't know, but I am now. So if I actually did a IP lookup, I'd be in Botswana. So I'm country hopping right now. So that's one of them. Let's go ahead.
So what are we doing here also?
This allows me to actually change my IP address. When I'm making my HUD bids, this is what my virtual assistant actually uses to change their IP address to make it look like they're in the US. So let's go ahead and do this again, but I'm going to show you a different one as well.
Is your IP address always going to show up the same as yours?
It will not show up the same as mine. It will show up as whatever the VPN network has it as in the US. They could be looking like they're in New York. They could be looking like they're in LA. It all depends on where Hola has a server at in that country.
Okay, so they're not going to be coming from the same place every day?
Not necessarily. And it's one of those that with the traffic with these VPNs,
So it shuffles their IP.
Yeah, it shuffles it up a little bit. To where and I like to use this for Craigslist, and I'll get into more detail on that in a minute. How many in here are NSA aware? Don't want the NSA in there. I'm very much aware of that. ZenMate, another freebie. ZenMate. I love ZenMate. Does not have as many countries, but this one is actually from Germany. Their IP addresses are all German, and they're actually Frankfurt, I think, is where they're based out of as far as their IP addresses. The actual company is based out of Berlin, but they actually follow German privacy laws, which are some of the best in the world, actually. So anything that you ever do on here is pretty much untrackable. So, that's just a side note. But as far as like being able to change your IP address for your virtual assistant, this is a freebie. They can put it in their browser. It looks like they're coming from the US. They can either look like they're coming from Germany, several other European areas, I think like Canada, something like that, and the US. So ZenMate, Hola. Now if you want to look, if these don't work for you, you need to look for a paid version for whatever reason. TunnelBear. That's another one that's a paid one. Let's see. I won't repeat this one. TunnelBear. That's another one. Let's see what else. OpenVPN. OpenVPN. That's another one you can download. This one actually, instead of just working in the browser, this actually is a full-on down. The last three that I showed you, they actually download a program into your computer to where it's not just your browser looking like it, it's your entire computer looks like it. So it's even more secure. The only thing you want to be careful of when using VPNs is don't don't turn them on and off and then start logging into your email account and your bank account. Fraud protection gets clicked pretty quick if your IP address is jumping all over the country within a matter of a few minutes. You'll get locked out of your email and bank account pretty quick doing that. So just be very careful using it. But like I said before, really the main thing behind this, use it for the HUD home store, use it to be able to log in, make your virtual assistant look like they're in the US. There we go. Let me see.
Got a question?
Yes, sir.
Airlines, you use like this ZenMate where they lock on. If you don't buy your ticket right then, you want to think about it for a day, and you come back now, your rates have magically gone up.
Won't help you there.
What's that?
Won't help you there. It won't help you lock on with that. No. Now let me make sure. I think I've gotten everything covered on that. I'm about to move into marketing. Let me just check real quick my notes. Any other questions real quick on VPNs while I'm checking this? All right. I think that automation. Does everybody feel like they've gotten something out of this automation stuff?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Now then, we're going to continue some automation, but we're also going to get into marketing. Why don't we bring Randolph, my little cohort, on up? Everybody remember Randolph from yesterday? Come on up, Randolph. As he comes on up, I was talking about some automation that we're going to continue it on over. Let me do this. While we're talking about VPNs, marketing. You can't sell a house unless you market it, right? One great way we actually sell our properties is Craigslist. Craigslist does not like you to post more than a couple ads a week from your computer. Go back to the VPN. Makes it look like your computer's from a different area. Make yourself a couple of different accounts with it that way, so you can actually use the VPN, create yourself a bunch of accounts. While we're talking Craigslist, there's also something else you want to do, is if you need to create a bunch of accounts, there's something called PVA numbers, phone verified accounts. And you can Google those. The rates change all the time for them. And PVA number, I think is what it is. Yep, PVA blasts. There's all kinds of them out there, cheap PVAs, that kind of thing. What that is a throwaway phone number. It allows you to set up a Craigslist account, then literally throw the number away, get a new number. So you can set up 10, 15, 20 email, Craigslist accounts just by this alone, using an IP address changer, using a PVA phone number, because they, when you actually set up the account, they actually call in to a phone number to verify who you are and give you a digital code. But they'll only call that number once within 90 days. So you want throwaway phone numbers. It does not work with Google Voice numbers. They know Google Voice numbers. So PVA numbers. All right. I think that's it. Now let's go ahead and start talking marketing.
All right.
Okay, guys. You all want to know how to sell a house? Yeah. Okay, Randolph, I guess let's go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to say, get into a little bit about, you're talking about phone numbers. That's really important, especially when you're looking at gathering calls. I mean, you got to utilize and leverage your time wisely. So for me, I always prefer for someone to call in and leave a voicemail. I don't want them to be able to call me directly and pick up a phone now. With Google Voice, the cool thing about Google Voice is not only that it's free, okay, but when you pick up the phone, you have a choice whether you want to take that call right then or not. So you think about it. You're on your job. You definitely won't want to miss any of your calls. Google Voice has this message say, you're receiving a call from, to send a voicemail, press 1. To answer, press 2 or something like that. Anyway, but you have the option to take that call now or later. And see, I only use Google Voice for my deal. So when I hear that recording, I know someone's calling from one of my signs. So that's really cool. So, but the thing is that you want to be able to leverage your time and return calls when it's at your convenience.
Let's start from the beginning on that. Because most people, when you talk about real estate and selling, what's the first thing you're told? Go build a buyer's list, right?
That's exactly right.
That's exactly right. We've got a buyer's list. But honestly, for the most part, we have people calling us that we've never even talked to before buying our houses. We only sell them a house one time, then move on. And
yeah, and that's a good point, because over the years, majority, I mean, Larry's been in this business for a long time, and he's been building, I mean, we have a massive buyers list of other investors, clients, students that are looking for real estate. And we've sold a lot of houses to them over the years. And primarily, most of our deals have been ideal for a rehabber.
Right.
We're wholesalers, so the ideal property is that, hey, they're going to buy from us, fix it up, and flip it. We do all the due diligence, and we still do some of that. A lot of our properties here lately have been along the cheap lines, and I know Larry talked about it. We touched on it yesterday, of owner-occupants who want to pay cash for a property and put in some sweat equity, or landlord where the rents make sense and the house doesn't need too much work, where the numbers work for a great rental.
Or parents who are wanting to keep their kids out of debt. Oh my gosh, that's a whole market
Absolutely.
right there.
Absolutely. I mean, we've sold houses from people up north. I got one lady in Massachusetts in mind where she was buying a house down here for my daughter. Never went to see it, but it was cheap enough, and the property condition report, the addendums on the HUD. That's all I did. That's all I provided to her for her to make her decision. Because you got to realize that property condition report, that's a summary of an inspection that was done. They went in and tested these items.
Right.
So a lot of times, all they want to know is, hey, is this house livable? Can I move in today, or can my daughter move in this house today and turn on lights, flush the toilet, and live in it? Okay, so I love HUD because it kind of provides for me what I need to start marketing the house to sell. And it's really helped us out a lot. Larry was talking about how we used to get appraisals and do these inspections. Man, we're hardly doing any of that anymore. And it's saving us a ton of money, I tell you that. But having that property condition report and those summaries and things that HUD provide, I'm using that to help sell my houses. So how did I get to that?
Basically, we're just talking about parents and that kind of thing.
Just the people we're selling houses to.
Right.
A lot of them being a lot more owner-occupants. And that's why you want your buyer to be a cash buyer. Because, I'm sure we have an array of people who are doing different strategies, but, all of you should be wholesaling if you're not. That needs to be one of the tools in your tool belt. You may be a landlord, you may be a rehabber, but friend, you need to know how to wholesale a house.